Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today is Monday, December 30th, and we didn't exactly get the Santa Claus rally that many people were expecting. And we got a uh, red, we got red days to end the year. We still have one more day to go, but it isn't looking like we're getting much of a rally before year end. You can see by the map here that pretty much everything is down except for a small pocket here of green, which is oil and gas. And then we have NVIDIA up a whopping 0.35%, but in the green nonetheless, better than all the rest of the positions that we're seeing here. Now, when in doubt, you should zoom out. Let's put things in context. The S&P for the year is up close to 25%, and that's not anything to scoff at. That's not too shabby, especially considering we had a strong year in 2023. Again, many people are saying we can't repeat in 2025. To them, I say we don't have to repeat in order to do well, inshallah. The fact of the matter is, at any point in time, something is going up, and it's our job to figure out where those promising pockets in the market are and be positioned accordingly. VIX was up 9% today. And I should say that speaking of the VIX and market sentiment, market nervousness, volatility, one potential catalyst we could get in 2025, which would be really good for not just market sentiment, but also for inflation, would be a tempering in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So the new administration does bring with it some prospects of a cooling down in that conflict, which should be very good for markets globally. We should also see some liquidity and stimulatory steps coming out from China. And it's very likely, I think, that the Fed is wrong about what they signaled in their last meeting, which is 2 rate cuts instead of 4. It's very likely that they do more than that in this upcoming year. So I remain bullish generally for 2025. Yeah, we may not get 25% return on the S&P, but we'll get very good returns on many other companies, inshallah, that are in promising promising spaces, and that will, I think, outperform in a big way, inshallah. Now, speaking of promising companies, Tesla, it's still above 400. I did say that I thought we'd be in the 400s in January. Looks like that will pan out. Of course, if we manage to hold the 400s for the next trading day, that is. Bitcoin miners pulled back today, and that's to be expected considering Bitcoin has pulled back considerably. Now, if you are an investor in MicroStrategy, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So at one point, this company, this stock, was at 480 almost, and now it's at 296, less than 300 in after-hour trading. So, yeah, take profits when you're in a volatile stock like MicroStrategy. Things don't last forever. It's important to take profits. You'll never go broke doing that. Bitcoin is at 92,500. Again, here, I think it's important to zoom out and, see where we were. And if you look at the year-to-date movement on Bitcoin's price, we're up more than 100%. So that's not too shabby, even after the pullback that we've experienced. For Dogecoin, we're up 240%, even better. For Solana, we're up 87%. So despite the pullbacks that we have experienced. I'm sorry, for Solana year to date, we're up 73%. So despite the pullbacks, I mean, it still has been a very good year. Now, despite that, and this is actually quite surprising, the retail traders lagged the S&P by one of the biggest margins I've seen. So in 2024, the average retail trader had a return of 9.8% compared to the 25% for the S&P, which brings up conveniently the issue of PIF membership, because for us, we did quite better than that. Our rate of return year to date for our biggest portfolio, the growth portfolio, was 120%. Our starting value this year was 21,000. Ending value was 72,000. So if you're not a PIF member and you want to do well in 2025, I actually can't guarantee that. But if you want to increase your odds, inshallah, then consider becoming a PIF member. Link to do so is in the description. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. So just a disclaimer there. And anything I say is not financial advice. Be sure to do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. I always forget that disclaimer, but today I remembered it. Now, moving on, as it relates to Bitcoin, some of the one of the reasons, or I think, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, which one is following the other. But we are seeing outflows in the last, basically 5 of the last 6 trading days. We saw outflows from the Bitcoin ETFs. Obviously, there's going to be some profit taking. And I suspect that in January, this might accelerate. So I would not panic if we got a bigger pullback in January as people realize some of the profits that they gained in 2024, which they may have been holding back on realizing for tax purposes. Now, if that happens, I think it is a buy the dip opportunity, and inshallah, we will be doing exactly that. Now, zooming out again, with regards to where we are in the cycle for Bitcoin, I really like to look at the MVRV Z-score, and that's this orange line right here. And right now we're less than 3, which is historically low for bull markets. And historically, we've seen bull markets peak closer to 7. So I think that, maybe if we get to 5 or 6, I would start, looking for the exits just to make sure that I am exiting before the top. But at below 3, I feel comfortable that, inshallah, there is more runway here for this bull market. Now, if you look at, there's been a lot of projections for 2025 price targets for Bitcoin, and I've mentioned that I thought we'd get above 200,000 in 2025. And if you look at the stock to income model, it is showing that for 2025, if we go to December, so basically 1 year from now, end of December, the projected price for Bitcoin is above 300. Now, the lower band here is 165,000. The upper band is 650. I don't think we're going to get close to there. But lower band here being 165, and considering the relative accuracy of this model historically, I think that's a pretty reasonable target to have. Something between, I think, 165 and 300 is where we'll end up for Bitcoin. Obviously, there are a lot of variables here. If the proposed Bitcoin reserve is established for the United States, then I think above 165 is almost a given at that point. But In fact, I think above 200 is a more likely than not scenario in that case. But we'll see. There's obviously, the risk of black swan events, but as I mentioned, I remain optimistic for the year ahead. Now, in terms of equities, and we kind of saw that in the initial map that was, red across the board for almost everything. We did see a record weekly inflows into equities, and then it was followed by a record weekly outflows for equities. And this is kind of a um, a good reminder that oftentimes the worst times in the market follow the best times, and also oftentimes the best times in the market follow the worst times. So oftentimes the biggest percentage gains in the market happen after the largest drawdowns in the market. So something to keep in mind. And in terms of where the money was coming out from and where it was going into, the ETFs that did the best in terms of equities were the large cap and broad market ETFs. So that kind of signals people going to more safer options in equities. And the ETFs that did the worst were the mid cap and small cap ETFs, which signals people going out of the more risky plays in equities. And I think this corresponds with the Fed's comments and the nervousness that it caused with regards to rate cuts and the economy. Now, this is just an anecdote for how at any one point, something's going up. Today, a little company called Faraday Future Intelligent Electric, and that's not that, that's not the name I would have chosen, but okay. Um, but this company makes electric cars, which I don't know if you can think of another company that may be competition to this company. But this company now, after going up 78% today, not too shabby, has a market cap of 142 million. And get this, the revenue that this company had in its most recent quarter was a whopping $9,000. Operating expense 1.12 million. So I can't exactly say I see the vision here for investors, but cash and short-term investments, they do have some cash, so they have 7 million. And total assets, they have 449 million. Now, what of those assets, which of those assets or how much of them can be actually converted into cash easily, or anyone would be interested in buying, who knows. But it does say 449 million here, total liabilities 292 million. So their equity is 156 million. So they're trading at, close to book value. So in that respect, it's not a crazy valuation that the company is sporting. But I don't like to look at book value at all. I think that's a terrible way to value companies. Much better is to look at the cash flow. And right now, there is no cash from operations. In fact, if you look at the last quarter, burned 22 million cash from operations. So their operations cost them $22.7 million in cash. So what's going on here? Well, Faraday Futures skyrocketed with model reveal on tap for next week. So they're going to reveal a model, and I guess the market liked it to the tune of 78%, or adding 78% to the value of the company. It's not something I would do, but so it soared today on reports that Faraday Future FX prototype car will be unveiled at CES 2025 in Las Vegas on January 5th through 7th. The company is also expected to provide a strategy update. In addition, The electric vehicle company announced that entrepreneur Rakaan will take delivery of the first FF91 2.0 Futurist Alliance EV in 2025. This company is really not a fan of short names. Every name they have is a sentence. During a delivery ceremony with executives, Hans was noted to have business interests spanning real estate, car rental, oil, pharmaceutical, and film production, with operations in China, Canada, and the US. Okay, great. This is something that I'm definitely not putting money behind anytime soon. Not to say that they will necessarily fail, but what I can say is that electric vehicles, making electric vehicles, has proven to be a hard business to be in. The margins are super slim. You're not really, you have no shot at earning positive income unless you reach, substantial volumes. They're going to burn cash for a long period of time, but they are also the subject of very vigorous speculation from investors. So some days you'll get days like today where you're up, 80%. These are days where I would hit the sell button for sure if it was me, not financial advice. Be sure to do your own due diligence. But if you look at one of the possible reasons why this stock may have been up as much as it is today, is that it's basically one of every four Faraday stocks or shares is shorted, one of every four. So if you get a small bump, it's going to become a big bump and then a bigger and bigger and bigger bump because shorts have to cover their positions. And this is why we can benefit from shorts because they end up exaggerating the upside. That's when I think people should consider selling. And they also exaggerate on the downside. And that's when I think people should consider buying for the right names. So with that being said, let's take some questions very quickly. Dr. Boss, nice to see you. Wa alaikum salam. Is this January 2-3 week pullback you mentioned coming a little earlier before the start of the new year? I think it's very possible that we have front run some of that because a lot of people are expecting it in January, so they say to themselves, hey, why should I wait around for that to happen? Let me just take some profits now. And I think that yes, we may have front run a bit of the dip in January. Salam, brother. Show has January always been down month, and you think this year might be different? It's never always been a down month, and in fact, I think that typically the market does the opposite of what people expect because of that dynamic that I just mentioned, which is people, tend to try to front run future expectations and therefore, change the future. So I do think that we will get a pullback in January. I think that makes sense. Statistically, we do get pullbacks associated with tax loss harvesting, but it's not a guarantee that it happens, obviously. الغيب لا يعلمه إلا الله. So, we can be sure that we don't know the future. That's what we can be sure of, and we can't really be sure of much else. Salim says, do you think this pullback in miners is a good time to add more? I would hold off on adding at this particular time. I do think that Bitcoin could take a bit of a stronger dip. This is just my 2 cents, but I would hold back for now. Not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I would do. Dr. Showa says, I have been with PIF for 2+ years, and I can attest to the PIF portfolio growth performance. Jazakallah khair to you and the PIF team. It is so nice of you to say that, Dr. Showa. And honestly, it's been an honor to to know you and to have you as a member. So thank you for being a member. Zuhair says, Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam, Zuhair. Uluk Bek says, Salam. Alaikum salam. Really excited for 2025 emerging growth. Me too. I am super excited about that. I think there are a lot of opportunities. Islam Hamdi says, have you considered at some point creating an ETF with PIF investments? I have. And while I won't go necessarily the ETF route, I do have some plans for the future, inshallah. Bakhtun Basha says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Rakaan really enjoyed being a member. Not sure this. For upgrades, yeah, let's. You can send me a message on Discord. I'll walk you through it, inshallah. Would you say stocks are a form of gambling? No, I would not say stocks are a form of gambling. People get this confused. So gambling does not necessarily relate to speculation. Gambling relates to zero-sum games that don't produce any value. With regards to stocks, you're just buying and selling an asset. So it's not a zero-sum game. There's actually a transfer. So with buying and selling, it is possible for both parties to come out better off because one party needs the buyer, for example, benefits from what they bought more than what they parted with. Otherwise, they would not have parted with what they did. And the other party is more happy with what they received than having what they parted with. Otherwise, they would not have parted with it. So both parties with trade are benefiting because there's an exchange there. Whereas with zero-sum games, let's say poker, even though it involves a lot of skill, and oftentimes I think maybe the chances are very much in favor of a certain move, it is still haram. It's still gambling because it's zero sum. Whatever anyone makes is necessarily someone else's loss. So I hope that clears that up. Also, I don't know. Yeah, so just I would say the Discord is the best place, brother Bakhtun. Ahsan, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah khair for the update and calming us down when the market is red. Do you think Tesla earning on Wednesday will make the stock price go higher as they are likely to meet expectations? Well, I do think that Tesla's earnings have a good chance of exceeding expectations. And I do think that there's a good chance that it acts as a catalyst for the stock. And it would be really great. It would be excellent, perfect, if we get a dip in Tesla prior to the earnings. Because if we do get a substantial dip, then I will be a buyer prior to the earnings, inshallah. Dr. MVG, assalamu alaikum, brother. Any thoughts and prayers? Thoughts and prayers for IS Energy. That's funny. I think it'll be fine. Obviously, this is why we take profits, right? So, this is a very volatile asset. It's to be expected that we get pullbacks. Right now, the direction that Bitcoin is going, it seems like there may be some additional downside here. Sorry to say, but it's possible. I don't know, but it's possible. There's additional downside here, so I don't want you to be devastated if there is. But I do think that zooming out, my price target for Bitcoin remains above 200,000 for this year. And I do think with IS Energy, there's a good chance that there's some, contract agreement done with a hyperscaler in the next 6 months that should act as a catalyst as well. So, some days you just want to, cover your eyes, don't look at your portfolio if it makes you feel better. Or if you have the conviction, maybe use those days to buy more. Um, all right. So last question I'll take. And so ultimately, would you say stocks are haram or halal? Well, yeah, I think you're buying a part of a company. So, buying parts of a company, whether they're publicly traded or privately traded, is clearly halal. Yes, there's risk involved in it, just like there's risk in starting your own company. There's risk involved in basically any business venture that you do. So, um, what I don't like to say halal or haram, I like to say I'm comfortable with it. And yeah, no company is perfect, but at the same time, I would say that I think it's if you think about it, keeping your purchasing power in cash, actually, considering that this cash is fiat that's issued as debt and supporting a interest based system, I think you could make an, a stronger argument that perhaps dealing with that, if there are alternatives, would be something that perhaps we should be uncomfortable with. But I'm not saying that, but you could make an argument. And so, yeah, I'm comfortable with stocks. I think companies that pieces of them are called shares, then we refer to them as stocks. In the UK, they call them stocks and shares. Pieces of companies, these companies produce the most amount of value in our lives in terms of material value, and they are responsible for the most amount of ease that we find in our life, and the most amount of value, and the most amount of uh, goods and services that we enjoy, and the things that make our life easier. So these are fundamentally, I think, good things that it's important for us to support. And buying pieces of these productive assets is a way to support them and be a part of this value creation process. So I think fundamentally it is a good thing. Investing is a good thing fundamentally. Now, obviously, it differs. There are some companies that you don't want to support, of course. But generally speaking, investing is a very good thing. It's a very noble thing, especially if you have the right intention. You're saying, I want to invest in companies that have the biggest positive impact, right? This is actually, inshallah, it's a good deed that you take with you to your afterlife. So that's my thinking on that topic. And on that topic, it's a good thing to review our intentions here when we're investing. That we want to have a positive impact through the investments that we make. And oh, by the way, when you start your investing process with asking the question, okay, which companies are going to have the biggest positive impact? And that guides your investment decisions. That's actually a great way to find great investments that are actually going to do well, that are actually going to have a really high return. So, dunya and akhirah, I think um, it's a good approach. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Become a PIF member if you haven't already. As I showed you guys, we did very well, alhamdulillah, in 2024. And I'm hoping, God willing, we'll do very good in 2025 as well. Link to become a PIF member is in the description. Leave a like. I was wondering when I was going to start the cough. I managed to get through most of this live without coughing. But leave a like if you enjoyed the live. Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.